Good morning, Camarillo seniors. We're here again for another broadcast with our friends Bob Allen, the KDTV, with KDTV, Debbie Ferguson, who has been a longtime nurse. And we have two guests today. We have Sandy Moore, who's going to tell us about herself. And in the far right corner is Scott Moyer. So I'm going to start with Sandy first. We want everyone to know what we're up to here on Good Morning Camarillo Seniors. There's a lot that we all can know and learn from each other. And I understand Sandy has a lot of experience with the Chamber of Commerce and working with women since the early 70s. So Sandy, tell us a little bit about what you've done and where you're headed.
Thanks, Bowie. Probably the most recent past is the book I published. I was in the process of doing a lot of research for the book. It's a true story about a person that lived in Oxnard in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And my oldest daughter was helping me do the research, but when she passed away, that put me into a different position in my life. And when COVID hit, I thought, gosh, what on earth can I do that will keep me busy? And I decided to clean out my closet. So I guess about 10 years worth of never doing anything in that closet except put in and take out. I got up on a step stool and began pulling things down from the top of the shelf. And an album conked me on my head. And I thought, what in the world is that? I got down off of the stool and discovered all of the research that I had done for my book.
Wow.
And I thought, gosh, I've already written this thing about 100 times in my head. So I sat down and I started reading through all the research that I had done back then from, well, personal interviews as well as microfiche. That's a fun thing to do. Never do that. We're so lucky now with computers. At any rate, I started reading all the research that I had done and decided, well, this will take up enough of my time. So I wrote the book during COVID. My neighbor at the time was well, her schooling was in English. Since I didn't know a period from a comma, I gave her all my research and all of the text that I had written.
Well, let me ask you this. How long a process was that? Did you take the whole time of COVID and publish the book?
I took the whole time of COVID. I collected all of my notes. I put everything together and just began to write. And my neighbor put it all together where you guys could understand it and read it. And I published it.
You published it with who? What was your publishing company?
Oh,
what's the name of the book?
It was published through Amazon. And the name of the book is Linked, Linked Lives, Lives. Linked
Very
Lives.
good. So our audience can go to Amazon and order it?
Sure, absolutely. Just put in my name and the book name, and it should pop up. And you can read a few pages of it just online without purchasing it.
Okay,
You know
that's
how interesting. I hate to interject, but Sandy had given me a copy of the Ventura County Star that actually did a story about this. And
Wonderful.
I made some copies, and had I known this is the new technology, Sandy, we could have put that up on the screen right now, the Ventura County
Yeah.
Star. So
Yeah.
we'll do that at a later date.
Yeah. Now, you also, Sandy, have worked with the Chamber of Commerce, and you also did that program from 72 with the women's, uh, what was it
Business and
called?
professional
Hostel?
women.
So
Mhm.
you've been helping people for quite a while, and you haven't stopped, because now you're helping people with this. We all need to stick together. We all need, especially in this retirement thing, so we don't lose our marbles, to stay connected with each other, to be a part of a community, to greet people. I know there's people in our building here that are pretty isolated, and
Mhm.
health wise or whatever, they don't really have that energy to communicate. So we need to be aware of each other that way,
Boy, one of my jobs was working, my last job, let's put it that way, was working with Lutheran Social Services, helping seniors stay in their homes for as long as possible,
Wow.
which included getting volunteers to go to the seniors' home and build them a wheelchair or fix their wheelchair ramp, clean a mobile home park, wash everybody's windows, um, feed them if that's what they need, provide a service that would do that for them, um, rides to the doctor. If you wanted to
Well,
get your hair done, a volunteer would come and pick you up and take you and stay with you, or a doctor's appointment. A lot of the people didn't have family around them, and they needed some kind of assistance. We
yeah, yeah.
provided it for them if
So
we could with a
how did
volunteer.
how did you get the volunteers? That's an immense project to get people to volunteer, for one, and how do you come in contact with them? How did you get them?
I had a lovely mentor that provided me with a lot of publicity. I've been in the newspaper and on TV, and a lot of connections occurred just simply because of that. Plus, I had my own business as a um, employment counselor. And so I had a lot of community connections, plus my board of directorship on the Ventura Chamber of Commerce. I was the first woman to be elected to the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce.
Wow, that's incredible.
So I had good community connections.
You're
And
going to be a great team member for us here in trying to get out information to
Yeah.
the senior communities, plural, in Camarillo.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Glad to have you on our team, Sandy.
that's great, Bob. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All
And
right. Now we're going to go to Scott. Our talented, wonderful musical guy of the moment is Scott Moyer. He has quite a history working with, I know you worked with adults with learning disabilities and musicians and all kinds of things. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Scott.
Well, hi, Bowie. How you doing? And
I'm
Bob,
good.
how you doing, Bob? Have you had your morning coffee yet? Yeah. Um, well, it all started with me, way back when I was 11 years old, and even before that, when I was 8, in Wilmington, Delaware. Um, Watching the Dick Clark Show, American Bandstand, as we all know it growing up, and learning all the dances and listening to all the grooves that were happening from Chuck Berry and Little Richard and Elvis, and going to the like everybody went to the movies and saw Love Me Tender or whatever, and you get all these memories that come swarming back to you, about the 50s and the 60s, and so I got an interest in studying drums back at age 11, and took lessons when I was living in the New Jersey area, And then my family got moved to, we got transferred to Hong Kong. And just briefly, by age 15, I was in a full-on band playing Beatle music and all the British wave music, because Hong Kong's a British crown colony at the time in 1962. And I was playing gigs at the Hong Kong Hilton with Thelonious Monk trio on the same bill. And to me, it was just like, hey, we're having fun playing in a band with our little Beatle outfits and whatnot. But all that continued, and throughout my whole high school, time, and then also into college at the University of North Carolina, where I chose to study music theory along with psychology. And the music theory really just opened my eyes to everything, like the study of the piano, the guitar. I was already playing guitar and drums, at age 11 and age 15. So I've continued all of those studies, and I've been teaching since 1974. Originally started with the Department of the Interior in Washington, D.C. They had a special program at one of the parks, and I was teaching a bunch of kids that were troubled kids. Somehow I always end up with either, adults with learning disabilities or kids that are gifted or troubled kids. But the music always has helped every single person. It helped all the troubled kids. If ever I got a kid that was really a kind of a bad apple, I would assign him to take over, working with other people. And I gave him responsibilities. And all of a sudden, wow, he had responsibilities. He started to get better, and so did everybody else, because I, found a way to assign him, responsibilities. So long story short, I moved to California in '76 and have been playing in writing film soundtracks, surf movie soundtracks, B movies, where I'm playing drums and singing and, writing songs, and have a whole earlier career, just writing film soundtracks and doing a lot of commercials, working with Emmylou Harris, who was my singer. Whenever I wrote a country song, a commercial for Kawasaki motorbikes, I would call Emmylou Harris in. This is when I was living in Washington, D.C., where she was. And she'd come in and sing my lyrics and my melodies on top of my commercials. And those were really memorable times, like fun little times, So, this whole music career hasn't stopped. I've been teaching for 50 years on multi-instruments, like drums, guitar, piano, bass, voice, music theory, applied to everything. And I continue to teach on Zoom since the pandemic. But I also got asked to help manage Glenn Campbell's former home recording studio over in Agora Hills, off the Liberty Canyon exit. So I go over there, like I'm going over there today at 1:30 to teach anywhere from 10 to 20 adults with learning disabilities, with whom I've been teaching for over a year. And they have really come along. It's amazing what they are capable of doing. So on top of that, I'm authoring a series of music books for drums and music theory over the pandemic.
It is. Music is another language. It's a complete, incredible language. It just blows me away how you can manage all the different instruments and put it into an orchestration. It's communication right there, it's incredible.
It's a universal language, and it touches everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm a songwriter for many, many years. Since 1972, I've been writing songs. In my room here that you can't see really the whole thing, but on the left side of me, I have boxes completely full of cassettes and CDs that I have composed. I have my original music in, and a lot of my the demoed music. And then on the right side, I have a practice pad. I have an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar that I use to teach my students every week on Zoom. Zoom has a whiteboard, which has got really incredible utensils that you can actually create these incredible images, and you can just send these images of the guitar or the drums. I write music, so I can write all the music down using the utensils on Zoom, and I just send them to my students instantly through Zoom. And they have a whole, some of them have like 75 pages. They'll download them and put them in a notebook and things like that. So it's really easy to teach on Zoom. You know, I have like drumsticks right here, practice
Well,
pads.
do you also have a keyboard?
I also do. I'm bringing a keyboard in very soon. I have everything in
You
storage.
know something, Scott? In listening to you, I'm thinking out in my own mind about how how you could basically be helping members of our community. And one of the ways I still remember listening on WN, whatever channel it was, you know, a radio station out here, you said you have a whole wall of music that you've done. Why
Yeah.
not put on that music for everybody to listen to?
Oh, I have over 100 songs that I'm
No, I'm
still.
saying
Yeah.
let's create a, a thing that can be, you know, a recording that could be a couple of hours long, and we play it every once in a while, or basically create the
Our theme
you
song
know,
for the day.
Well, we can
yeah,
start. We can start the top 40. You know, we can do the top.
okay,
Yeah.
We can do the top 40, and we can get people to say, "Well, hey, I like that. I could dance to that one."
yeah. See
Uh,
and what it is as we get people on the team looking at what we're trying to do, I always ask people the following questions. If I were to give you, as a baseball manager of one of the teams, the 25 top pitchers in baseball, would you take them? And people who don't really understand it say, oh, yeah. But what it does, it takes a team. Somebody has to catch one of those pitchers.
well,
And they're going
as long as Whitey Ford is among them, I'm there.
oh, that's a good one, man.
Yeah.
Scott, how
Yes, ma'am.
about putting a class for seniors that don't know a thing about music but love it and would enjoy learning how to play a musical instrument?
Well, once everybody has a playable, very good musical instrument, that would be something that it would be very fun to do. And we have all these great rooms that we can teach in. You know, we have the room down at near the university. You know, that's clubhouse down there. They have two rooms with tables in them that are glass doors, and those can be booked out. I can't teach in my room here because that's not part of the program, but I teach on Zoom, and I can teach anybody on Zoom. It really works, and you can hear me right now as clear as a bell, and that's the way I hear everybody as well, and they hear what I'm playing also.
Now,
So that's a
have you
possibility.
talked, do you know who the person is at the university to get those rooms, or can we follow? I'll follow up on that if that would
Oh
be
no,
great.
I mean, I was told by Phoenix that those rooms were available, and then I just by hunting and feeling, I found those rooms on my own.
Okay.
You know, somebody said, "Hey, there's a place a mile down the street, and you just go past the Chinese restaurant and the Mexican restaurant,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
use your key to get in." And so I found it, and I said, "Wow, this is a great spot to meet." You know, and
Wonderful.
I would love to have a class of, 10 students. I've taught private schools, so, many of my students have gotten into the elite music schools in the United States and are touring around the United States, making a living at playing music. I have like my students actually speak volumes more than I possibly could about the success they're having with their musical skills.
But you
I,
know,
I love that idea. I think even a keyboard class for seniors, a little bit easier than guitar. I've
Yeah,
tried to play
but
guitar
the
for many
problem
years.
is you have to find a place to store the keyboards.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't just, it's great to dream up the idea, but you have to go, okay, we got these keyboards.
Yeah.
They're long and they're big. They got to be put someplace. And then they have to be set up every time. You see what I'm saying? And taken down.
Yeah.
So
We could
that's
do something like that, I think. once a month, couldn't we, Scott?
Oh, you could do it once a month. The problem is with once a month is unless you do it once a week and it's a regular thing, once a month,
You lose
it
it.
doesn't really work. It
Well,
doesn't
here's
really.
the good thing about the Zoom, though. You could teach it on Zoom. It could be recorded, and then the seniors can go to that room and just have a moderator show the Zoom with you playing on the keyboards. Or here's the key of D, here's C major,
Yeah.
or whatever,
No,
and
that's
they
easy.
could just follow along that way.
Yeah,
And
I
isn't there
have.
pressure sensitive?
What's that?
Isn't there pressure sensitive? Aren't there pressure sensitive keyboards that are like vinyl? Do you just roll them out? They're
Uh,
pressure sensitive?
yeah, they have those kinds of keyboards
Yeah.
too, but
Yeah.
it would be something that one would have to get funding for to
Yeah.
purchase all those
Yeah.
kinds of things. But
That's a
yeah, I
great
mean,
idea.
the keyboard, your music is, I got to tell you this, if I knew, what I know now back when I was younger, um, I mean, music is real logical. It's all just numbers and letters. I call it the alpha-numerical system because it's alphabetical and it's numbered. All of the alphabetical names of the notes have a number. And whenever you're in a key, the root note or the key of the name of the key is numbered number one. And it goes from there. And I have charts that explain all that stuff. It's really bonehead stupid simple. And everybody makes it out to be complex and old theory. Oh my gosh. It's not. It can be
All
complex.
dogs have teeth.
See,
It
but
can be,
Scott,
yeah.
Scott, we're gearing information towards a senior community that would like to learn a little bit more, I think, about the history of music rather than learning how to play an instrument at this time of their lives. Okay.
Well, yeah, I teach history of music also. I have students
Well,
in China that want to learn history of music. And
that's
Yeah.
I was invited to China to teach at the University of Nanking, Shanghai. I just chose not to go because of the internet issues and the political issues.
Yeah.
But that would have been recent. I could
well,
have gone.
here we have the technology and the community that might be very quite interested in
Well, yeah,
that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm all for teach. When the situation is right, when it's set up right and it's set up professionally, I'm all in on teaching because I love sharing the magic of music.
Amen. Yep. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to remind everybody too that the Ollie classes are up, that with the university, they have those online and in-person classes, and there's a whole new list of classes that you can take. I'm more of the crafty person, but I do want to take the American Revolution class and the British history, but I think you were handed out this flyer. We all
Yeah.
had that. And then also the activity guide for Pleasant Valley Community Center and Senior Center is out with all different kinds of classes. I don't know, I haven't looked to see if they have music classes yet. But lots of things that we could take. But the other thing too is that transportation to and from this, and I know several people who don't drive, but they're still ambulatory and they could do something. So maybe trying to work that kind of help out for them would be great, but also just to keep everybody moving. And that's the one thing I like about the music too, not just knowing about the history, but it's cognitively, it keeps your brain popping. If you can, do the chords or whatever, it exercises your brain instead of just watching, you're exercising. And
Oh,
I think
all the
that's
time,
something.
all the time. During the pandemic, I started writing a book because I had a lot of time on my hands. I was no longer teaching at a private a studio in the Pacific Palisades because that shut down, and so I started writing, little, drumming skills. I started writing these drumming skills, but I started with one page, and now I have over 1,000 pages of just stuff that I've created, during the pandemic. So,
Mhm.
I mean, my mind is racing all the time and creating things with music theory and drumming and whatnot. So it's always wired, and that's what it does. It helps to wire your brain
Yeah.
a whole different
Yeah.
way.
Yep. And Lord knows we need that. Here we are in
Yeah.
our golden years, and we need to stay active and in touch.
Well, I think the one person that we haven't talked to in terms of what she could bring is Deb.
Yeah, Deb.
Deb's one of our starting team players, and you've been around quite a long time. And why don't you let the community, as you quickly as you can, so that we have one video that explains, the people who are on here.
Basically, I was in healthcare for 46 years. I ended my career in corporate, which I absolutely hated. My favorite part of nursing was probably hospice care and actually taking care of my own colleagues, because I did a lot of work with employee health services. I'm really interested in seeing if we can get at least one AED, which is a defibrillator, within the building. I also would like to see us perhaps have the fire department or the American Red Cross come in and just do a review of CPR classes for us, because I know a lot of people, it's been a long time since they took CPR. You never know when you're going to use it. I recently, when I lived in Michigan, used the Heimlich maneuver in a restaurant.
Ooh.
So I'm always looking, and it worked. It worked, so it was all good. But I have done CPR. I'll be honest, my husband at age 41 committed suicide, but I did CPR on him. So it's something that you want to keep current. And I'm happy to be here. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I married a gentleman who was military. We were military. We lived all over the place, all over the world for 11 years. And then we moved to Michigan, and I spent 37 years in Michigan. And here I am because I moved here to follow my eldest son.
I'm glad you're part of our team. Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
to be part of the team too.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Go, Scott. All the leaves are brown and the sky.
By the way, Bowie,
Oh, yeah,
why don't
we
you
can do
give
that one.
why don't you give the community a little bit of background about you and why you're doing this?
Ooh, I've just always been in the entertainment industry. My mother was an actress. She was a war bride, but she was a very well-known actress and singer over in England before the war. I'm just Irish and French, and got a lot in common with Scott there on the East Coast. Beethoven Hall of Music, my great grandfather founded in Baltimore. My sister was one of the first recording engineers, and she had Emmylou Harris at her house in Woodland Hills with Dolly Parton. And I was like the gopher, I set up the studio for them. I've just been in there in theater since second grade, and musical. I was in a band, and I was a hippie. When the Beatles came over, it was an aha moment for me, with my strict Irish Catholic upbringing, which I just left and followed, the hippie thing, traveled across the country in a painted up school bus with Wavy Gravy and those guys for all the, different wonderful experiences trying to find myself. And here I am.
Well, and you're the spokesperson for our community. I do want to share with everybody, since we're all saying why we came. I moved to a senior community because, as owner of KDTelevision.com, which was the only local news, weather, and sports when I first moved to Oxnard. So other seniors who remember that will know that this was a television station, and we can get the information out to the community
Yeah.
with feeling a little safe. But the reality is that I am a visionary and I saw a need in the marketplace for something when someone passes away.
Mhm.
The
Yes.
first thing that a funeral director asks the family is for pictures so that they could make a video at the end of the ceremony for that person.
Yes. Yeah.
My feeling and what I tried to do is my living eulogy. I just became a great grandparent, and I don't want my grandson telling his son about his grandpa Bob.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're going to create a community for seniors to live and create their own living eulogy.
And here's an important point. I was talking with some ladies yesterday in the jacuzzi, which we have available across the street from our apartment complex. The it's we got to do it soon because any day we could get dementia. You know, I think what was it, Scott, your brother? It's lost.
My
It-
brother had a fall. He fell. He's 3 years older than me, and very vital. A world-class photographer with Time and Life magazine, and you know, Imelda Marcos's shoes and all this. The Beirut War photojournalist of the year, 1983. He has enormous, you know, credentials, and he fell the other day. Ended up in the hospital for a month, and now they had an MRI. They did an MRI on his head, and he's got signs of Alzheimer's and dementia. And
So yeah,
this is really devastating, you know, to obviously his wife and his
Yeah.
daughter, who's lives in San Francisco area.
yeah.
So, you know, we're just we're faced with these things. We don't have any idea. I have another friend that I just went to see last Wednesday, and he's completely can't speak anymore. He's like 73, and he got dementia, and he cannot speak a word. All he says is yeah,
Wow.
yeah. He's just laying in bed, and he has to be helped by multiple
Yeah.
nurses, as you know.
So
And
there's your word to the wise, though. Then get it done now. You know,
Yep.
get with Bob for your living eulogy. I'd rather call it life and times of so and so. You know, Uncle Bob or Grandpa Bob. Life and times because
yeah,
they've been wonderful times, and we all have a wonderful life. We're grateful to be here,
And
and we want to
hopefully
thank
this,
everybody for. Hmm?
no, I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you. I
Okay.
apologize.
But I don't know if we can say like what is it, like and subscribe, you know, are we that much of a YouTube station that they can subscribe?
The thing that we should be doing is kadytv.com is our website. That's the television station's website. This is where any information that'll affect the community that we have, there will be a link there, right on
Okay.
the homepage.
Remember that KADYTV .com, and you're gonna look for Good Morning Camarillo Seniors, all right?
You got that one.
I should write a theme for it. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, like KADY.
Oh,
All
can
right.
I, by the way, I have that on a recording. Do I have your approval to use it?
As soon as I get it copywritten,
Well, all right.
copyrighted.
I want to thank you, Sandy and Debbie and Bob and Scott and all of
Thank
you
you.
that are watching. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Bowie.
Goodbye, team.
Bye.
Bye bye.